Welcome back to Margaritas in Paradise. Hey, today I have a special friend of mine for another edition of Everybody Has a Story. This is Brian from the USA. He's been here quite a while. We're going to start out, Brian. Welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you start by telling us a little background information about you, what brought you to Thailand, that sort of thing.
In the early 70s, middle 70s actually, I built a sailboat, 55-foot schooner in Los Angeles.
Right.
And sailed it all through the Pacific. And yeah.
How big a sailboat was this?
55 foot. And it was originally designed to be a sloop, but I designed it as a schooner with all roller furling sails so that I could handle it pretty much by myself. But thanks to the war in Vietnam and all the refugees that came out, the boat people they were called, I went down to Camp Pendleton and picked up 3 girls. They were my crew. Anyway, my basis was out of Kauai. Now, Willy Harbor, it's called in the town of Lahui on Kauai. And so there I used to run cargo out to different places. The boat was big enough that it was registered as a United States commercial vessel. A 12.5-ton cargo hold for, I could run cargo. So wound up running to the Marshall Islands, the Caroline Islands, which are American possessions, which made it real easy to travel to. Sure. The refugees, trying to escape the communists. Right. Okay. And they'd leave on boats anything they could get. And that's why I parked my boat out in there, because I was armed to the teeth. Pirates were coming along, Thai pirates and some Malaysian pirates would come along, and the young girls would take them, sell them as sex slaves, kill everybody on the boat, take anything they had. And some of these boats were just not much more than canoes, or some rowboats. And so I was looking for trouble, basically. So I just made circles all outside, 100 miles right outside of Vietnam. And these boat people would come out, and I'd toss them. I had tons of noodles, these ramen noodles. Right. And so a case of noodles to the big jugs of water. I carried, at that time I was carrying 4,000 gallons of water on the boat. Where the boats were sinking and broke down, I actually would tow them into Thailand, Suni Songkhla.
So, have you ever ran into pirates while you were out sailing?
Not that I could actually say were pirates. I was prepared for it because at the time, Indonesia had a real bad reputation. A lot of yachts went missing, and I was actually the Indonesian Navy who would kill the people, take the boats and sell them, and paint them a new color, and that was it. So I had since I was registered as a United States merchant vessel, I could carry weaponry if I wanted to. So I had a Browning 50 caliber machine gun. And I never really had to use any of it, except for one time I was in Thailand. I had a fishing boat, which is what the pirates usually are, big wooden fishing boats. And one followed me, and I changed course, flipped the autopilot, and he changed on an intercept course again. So I'd flip the autopilot the other direction and go head off, and he'd change course again. So we broke out the 30 caliber machine gun, which is the lightest one to carry around, and set it up on deck. And I popped off around 30 rounds. They were over a mile, over between 1 kilometer and a mile away still. So the bullets hit no closer than 300 yards to their boat. But at the angle, they were putting up wakes of 15, 20 feet in the air, the bullets, when they were hitting the water. So you just saw, as soon as the bullets hit the water, their boat just they just veered off into the sunset, never bothered by them again. When I went through Indonesia, I never did have any problems. But anytime you had someone follow you like that and you change course and they change course, you got to start to get ready to break out the armaments.
Yeah, it would have to be somewhat scary, thinking when you have a boat like that following you or sleeping with one eye open,
Yeah, because so I didn't have radar. So basically it was looking for things. And I did have a big, powerful Navy searchlight. It was a 5 miles, 30-something inch arc light, basically, so I could see things long ways off. But without the radar and so forth, I a lot of times ran dark myself, at night.
Here's another thing. So you're out in the middle of the ocean, okay? You don't just jump off and go swimming every now and then, because the boat swims away, right? Or,
Yeah, the sailboats went on an automatic pilot. You know, it just keep going forever. You know,
Right,
you
right,
better
right.
be a real good swimmer.
Right.
And my first time in Pattaya was actually I just happened to pull in here, saw that it was nice, and I'd already done 44,000 miles on the boat. And I took one look at Pattaya and one look at the boat, and I decided, well, took the boat back to Hawaii, sold it, and moved over to Thailand.
but Pattaya was a different look in the 70s compared to today.
Yeah, Beach Road was a two-way gravel road, and anything past Second Road going towards Sukhumvit was all swamp.
So, you pulled into Pattaya Bay with your sailboat.
Right. I'd been picking up boat people coming out of Vietnam and transporting them to mostly to Malaysia and so forth.
Okay.
But, and down to Suratani. They had a camp for them down there too. But I just decided to come up here for a break. And that first time I saw Pattaya.
Right. How many people lived here?
I don't know, but they didn't have any traffic lights yet. In fact, I'd already moved down to Rayong when the first traffic light was put in, which was at Second Road and South Pattaya. That was the first traffic light, other than up on Sukhumvit Highway.
Right. Bars?
Just a walking street, and then there's the one go-go bar. The Tahitian Queen was out of town. Really, you had to go out of town to get to it.
Right. It wasn't the same walking street today, right? It was like, it started at like Soy 15 or something like that.
Well, the walking street where you actually go in,
Right.
it was pretty much the same as it is now. And it went clear back with was it the Bayshore Hotel back
Okay,
there?
it
So,
went-
yep, sure did.
Wow.
But that was the whole town, right? You got to remember there was once you came out of the walking street entrance, it was just all fields.
From
until
Walking
you went,
Street down to 13-4,
it was all fields, just
was all fields.
wild grass.
right. That's where, so the Shamrock.
That was put in the 80s.
In that
Like
area?
even Soy Post Office and stuff, that was all done in the 80s.
Wow.
The only other place where there was any buildings at all was up on Soy 4, 5, 3, and those were rich Thai houses and so forth.
Right.
And then there was that one clinic, the International Clinic, has been
Okay.
been there for.
So that's been there for a while.
Yeah, it's been there for as long as I can remember. Yeah,
Is that the only hospital in the area?
but it wasn't a hospital; it was just a doctor's clinic.
Oh, okay. Of course, they probably had government hospitals.
That was the only government hospital, and it was a clinic back then, was in Naklua. Now it's a hospital.
How many years have you been basically, how long have you been coming to Thailand?
Okay, well, when I arrived on the boat, it was 1977. It took me a year to take the boat back around and sell it and so forth. So I actually moved here in 78. And I really didn't like Pattaya itself. I was here for a month, and then I bought some beach land down in Rayong and built a house down on the beach down there. So but I used to have to come back here for foreign food and so forth because there was no other place to buy it. So I was in and out of Pattaya a lot, and then wound up doing odd jobs and stuff. I was up here too for some time.
So, of course, we're going to get questions. I know people are going to say, well, a foreigner can't buy land. So you fell into like companies?
Yeah, I formed a company, and I was the chairman of the board of directors, of course. There's ways of doing it. You can really protect yourself, but you got to know how to do it. Just forming a company doesn't really protect you. It's how you do it and who you put in as the shareholders and so forth.
Right, exactly. And that's probably a topic of another video eventually.
Right. I even had a law office on Soy 6. It's actually called Soy Yotsak back then. And doing companies for people that wanted to buy land.
How many different businesses have you ran here?
I was a construction contractor. I worked for the Office of the Prime Minister. I worked for the Interior Ministry of Thailand. I worked for CP, that's this big agribusiness company. Short time in the law office there on Soy 6. And probably a lot of things I can't even remember.
What were you doing? You said that you built a sailboat. What were you doing prior to that? How old were you then?
Well, I'd come out of Laos. I was in the Vietnam War for a bit.
Oh, yeah, right.
But not on the American roster, though. I was actually working for the Laotians.
Okay, yeah.
I had Hmong people working for me, so Hmong mercenaries.
Yeah.
And they call the Nungs, which are Chinese. Actually, they're the Kuomintang that didn't make it to Taiwan, but got forced across into the Thai border when the Chinese took over Thailand. So they were fighting with me also because they don't like communism, and the Hmongs don't either. So they were all real hot to fight against the North Vietnamese.
Do you miss sailing?
Yes, although it was such strenuous work, even though the boat was made to be as simple as possible to handle, you don't get any sleep while you're out there. And even when you're parked, in a harbor or moored, I miss it in that sense because there was a lot of freedom. I could pull up to an atoll out in the middle of the Pacific and just make it my home for a week if I wanted to.
It's funny that I have you on here now because now, if you remember, I had Ken, who he sailed around the world. I'll put a link right about here to his video. Check that out. And also check the description below for other money-saving links. You had a lot of places to choose from. Of course, you pull in, you see Pattaya, and it probably had a certain reputation at that point. Mm-hmm. But you ended up choosing Rayong. Of course, there's Bangkok, and there's other places here.
Yep.
How did you pick Rayong?
Well, when I left Pattaya, rather than heading straight back down towards Vietnam and Cambodia and so forth, I took a swing along the coast. And I could see all the coast of Rayong along there, and beautiful beaches, all palm-studded beaches. That's what you'd picture for a tropical paradise. Sure. And so I remembered that. And when I got back, I went down there and nailed the first farmer that I saw that had some land on the beach and bought it from him.
And so I've been down there, and I've actually seen the property that. Right, when you took me down there, and how many homes did you have down there?
Two. I had one house that I built for myself, and a friend of mine named Jack, he wanted to be next to me. He wanted to be in the same beach. So I just said, well, you can take that house, and I'll build a new one right next to it. Right. So then there wound up being two of them. So
the homes are still there, but they're not in the condition that you left them in.
No,
right?
no.
This is Brian's house, and this is the land that he had. It goes all the way down to the mouth. You see that rock piling down there is the mouth of the river. This is the first house Brian built in 1981. This other house here, he built in 1982. Same time I graduated from high school. Land goes all the way back down the beach for approximately, I would say, 3/4 of a kilometer, which was all Brian's property. Anyway, we showed up out here, and everybody knows Brian very, very well. He's kind of a celebrity out here. Anyway, a good tour, having a good time. And just going down there and seeing people and how they reacted to him, they treated him like a king. You knew all the stories were right on the... He even had a small boat.
One of my leftover, I had a fleet of 4 little boats when I was down there.
And he showed me pictures of it in the water before, and here this boat was sitting on the land. It had probably been there 10 or 20 years, something pretty cool. Guys lived a life here in Thailand, there's no doubt about it. Done your fair share of travel in Thailand.
Used to do traveling by actually train, a lot of it. I'd go to where people had never gone before. For back then it was 50 baht. It's probably more like 150 now, but you could have your motorcycle put on the train, and you could just take it with you. So when you get to Chiang Mai, you just they roll your motorcycle off for you, start it up, and you take off. And I'd go out the highway to found a dirt road and take the dirt road as far as it would go, and get to where they'd never seen a white man before. Sometimes. And Thais are really hospitable. They really are. When I'd get out to the end of the road of this dirt road, sometimes there'd be always a little noodle stand or something there to drink, and they'd say, well, where are you coming from, where are you going, and so forth. And I just tell them, I'm just roaming around, and they'd put me up in somebody's house, usually the richest person or the best house in the village anyway. And after 2 or 3 days, I'd fighting to to get out, to get back on the road, because they don't want you to leave even. Right. The only thing that really changed that I've noticed about Pattaya from then to now is the girls back then, really, as long as you kept the girl from the bar, they didn't expect to be paid anything until you got tired of them, and then you were expected to pay them what they were worth when you let them go. So there was no prearranged amount or anything else, and that lasted till the Germans got here.
Really?
And the Germans kind of took advantage of that and kind of kept people for maybe a month and didn't pay them anything. And so that went out the window, and now you got the system you have now. Yeah, because basically they could, even though they were working in bars where they were considering themselves rented wives, is the term in Thai. Right. And so that's what they considered themselves. You were renting a wife for a couple of days, or if you liked her, maybe you'd keep her a week or two.
Sure. I was talking to another friend of mine, a Thai person, and he was talking about his wife having to go to work. And I said, oh, what type of work does she do? And she says, oh, she sees foreign men. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's a guide or something? No. She goes and stays with these guys when they come to town. I say, well, don't you get jealous or anything? He's like, why? She's working. And I'm like, yeah, but... And he's like, no problem. It's working. Get paid. We're okay.
Yeah.
This guy, I've known him probably 10 years. His wife, I don't even know if they're really married or not, but, they're probably village married.
Right.
And had no clue. And they had like 3 kids at that. Mm-hmm. And she goes off and does her thing and comes back and with a wad of cash, and they're all happy.
The only other difference, too, I noticed between back in the 70s and 80s and now is the girls' biggest aim back then was to find a foreigner to marry and move to the foreign country. And that's not the way it is now. The girls used to be and so forth. That's all generally speaking. There was always the exception, and different people wanted different things.
Do you miss the USA?
Just miss the freedom of being able to shoot every day.
Yeah, right.
That's my big thing is shooting rifles and pistols. So even here, I was never able to do it every day because it's too expensive.
And how often do you go back to the U.S.?
I was here for like 4 years the last time, and then I went back, and because of a knee surgery, I wound up staying longer than I'd planned.
Right.
But actually, I'd like to be about 50-50.
So, living in Thailand in general, Pattaya, what kind of hurdles have you faced living here?
In the early days, there really weren't many. Nowadays, it's the traffic.
That's another video coming.
But other than that, medical care, if you really get something wrong with you, is always a worry. I don't particularly like the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital. Been there a few times. And so that's always a worry for someone that's up in their years.
Dog or cat?
Oh, cat person.
Cat, yeah.
Yeah, you can leave them alone for 6 months, fill up the big feeder with water and food, and have somebody come in every 6 months and refill it, and they'll do fine.
Did you have a cat on your sailboat?
Oh, yes, all the time, yeah.
In Thailand, Pattaya, or even Rayong, and I don't know, because you've been here for so long, if somebody decides to live here, do they need a motorbike or a car?
Well, I've had both, of course, car and trucks and everything else. Right. If you're living in Pattaya, like I am now, I just use a motorbike. Some people say they aren't safe, but if you drive like the Thais do, they're reasonably safe. You just don't want to drive, try to drive like an American would. But traffic is just so bad that a vehicle, unless you just want to sit in an air-conditioned car for an hour to get across town, Of course, now with the new Bolt and so forth.
I'll put links in the description below about that, and you can check those out.
Now with the Bolt and so forth, you can go. You don't need a car, I don't think, anymore.
Right. You're out drinking. You shouldn't be drinking and driving, but don't drink and drive.
And they do breathalyze here regularly.
Right. Now, when did they start that? They didn't. I remember when I first started coming here, they didn't do.
No, it wasn't. Everything is like that. When the Americans give them the stuff, then they start doing it. They didn't used to enforce speed limits at all until the Americans gave them radar guns. But I don't remember the exact years, but it was pretty recently, as far as probably 2000, 2008, 2000, something like that. Is the
right.
first I can remember of it.
Hey, good looking shirt, by the way.
Oh yes, yeah.
If you're interested in a shirt, I have a few left. Send me a message. Do you think that somebody, whether they're traveling here or living here a long time, do you think somebody needs to have medical insurance while they're in Thailand?
Yes, nowadays, particularly the prices of the private hospitals, unless you're rich, if you can afford 300 or 400,000 baht, medical bill, well, then it's not probably necessary. But otherwise, I surely would say it was necessary for anyone that's of age where they can get it. Now, if you're like a lot of retired people who are in your late 60s or 70s or even 80s, then you're in a hard spot. Especially if you're an American. Now, some countries actually cover their people even while they're here,
Right.
but America does not.
So if you can get medical insurance or health insurance, definitely get it.
Yes.
Right. And there's lots of companies out there. I'll try to put some links in the description below for different companies you can check out. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give me a big thumbs up, that you're hitting that subscribe button. There's a bell right next to it for future notification and new videos that are coming out.
Now, for other medical things, if it's not something that you're going to die in the next 3 hours if you don't get treatment,
Right.
the public hospitals, there are some that are good. Now, not necessarily in Pattaya, but the one in Chonburi, the public hospital there, and the one down in Sattahip, the Queen's Hospital down there, they are quite good. You may have to sit on a bench and wait in line for a couple hours, but the actual treatment and so forth, they're quite competent.
We just had a friend, Jim, had a hernia operation down at the Queen's Hospital. Other than him being in a ward of like 6 people, the care was cheaper.
On medical things, I had a basal cell carcinoma on my nose. It was just a pimple, but it was more like a small mosquito bite right there on the nose, so I could actually see it if I crossed my eyes. So after about 6 months, I went to the Bangkok Pattaya Hospital. I went to the International Hospital Clinic. They sent me, basically just gave me, well, it's just a skin infection, and gave me a tube of antibiotic cream and sent me on my way. And I went to 4 other dermatologists going into a Nightlife clinic. I had to sit for an hour or two on a bench outside his office. Once he got in there, and he knew what it was right away. And he said the Thais didn't know what it was because the melanin in the Thai skin,
Right.
so basal cell carcinoma is not something the Thais have, so the Thai doctors would never have seen it. And so anyway, they cut it out, put in almost 100 stitches in the nose.
Really?
Very small. They were ones that are absorbed. A year later, to the day, a little bump came back again. So I went back, and they said it was back. So they cut it, but only about 7, 8 stitches that time. And that was a number of years ago, and it's gone now anyway. I think the whole thing cost me like $8. That was at the public hospital, though.
But there's overall pretty good service here.
Yeah, if you got the money to pay for it, there's a number of hospitals that are really good. And Bangkok supposedly has some world-class hospitals.
Right, exactly. Yeah, people come here for where they do the medical vacations.
Yeah,
and
cosmetic
surgery.
Yeah.
Ford or Toyota?
Well, I always had the Ford diesel, when I was here. If I was buying one now, probably take a Toyota.
A lot of things have changed over the years and everything. And people ask all the time about bringing money from whatever their home country to here. Do you have any recommendations about that?
I try to keep as much money as I can in the country in cash. But basically, I just go down and use my ATM card, go to the bank, and have them transfer whatever I need for the next few months or something in one shot. Okay. So I don't use an ATM machine. I actually go in the bank and do a large transfer of money.
Yeah.
But there are other ways of doing it commercially, but it's just I've always done it that way. So,
and as far as the visa is concerned,
if you're old enough, 50 years of age, I think, you really want to, from the very first you get here, just go ahead and get your 1-year visa. Saves a lot of hassles later on, that retirement visa.
Right. Do you recommend using an agent, or is that something that you would do yourself?
I used to do it myself.
Right.
But I've gotten lazy over the years.
Right.
Although it's getting expensive now, though, to where next year I might go back to where doing it myself again.
Sure. Now, you have a lot of experience as far as doing it yourself, so the easiness out of it. And you know all the correct paperwork.
And also I speak Thai, which helps a great deal. So.
Right. So that's another thing. Brian is fluent in Thai, as well as several of the dialects, right?
Yeah, well, the northern and northeastern, yeah.
How did you adjust to the climate here?
Well, I lived on the beach everywhere I've been. That helps a great deal because you have the monsoon winds that, if you're right on the beach, blow quite comfortably. If you get inland, even a quarter mile or half a mile, the inversion layer, basically the sea breeze lifts up and goes up higher over you, so you're down in where the hotter all the time. Right. So you can actually be in Pattaya City and it can be quite warm, where on the beach it's 10 degrees cooler. But as far as adjusting to it, I just learned to sweat it out, if you're up country someplace.
Thailand's hot.
Yeah, Thailand's a hot country, so you got to either enjoy the heat or else be able to just take it, one of the two.
Go someplace else.
Yeah, but I've lived in Florida. I moved to Florida when I eventually wanted to stay back in the States. And Florida's actually hotter than Thailand is, in most places anyway.
I agree. If you knew of somebody that was thinking about potentially retire here, is there any preparation that you would suggest to them that they could do?
Actually, quite a bit, particularly to do with financial, banking, and so forth. Right. Set up so that you have at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 accesses to money in case you need it. Even though you may have one set way you think will work forever, don't depend on it. Thailand is a place to spend money, not to try to make it. I mean, there are people that have businesses that are very successful, but for every bar owner that makes money, there's 300 of them that don't.
So come here with financial security, basically,
yep.
And having multiple access points to your money, wherever your money's located at.
And several loads for your money, so that in case the main route access, something happens that cuts you off from that temporarily or whatever, that you have another place to go to get money to begin with.
I've talked about this before in other videos, and this one's on cost of living here in Thailand. Can somebody live here on $1,500 a month in Thailand? Is that doable?
Yeah, it's doable, as long as you don't think you're going to be living like you would in Hollywood, California, out eating steak dinners every night and so forth. You could do it. If you eat Thai food, easy to do.
That's a major concern. That's my second biggest expense is my food, right? Number one for most people, is going to be what? Accommodations.
But Tom and I both have condominiums that we stay in, so basically we're almost free.
So that's a good point. So accommodations, food, probably
health insurance, yeah.
Big one.
Yeah. Unless you're really young and healthy and willing to gamble.
And then probably going to be companionship, entertainment, that type of thing.
Yeah, that of course could be unlimited amount of money.
Get to live within your budget.
Yep,
right?
That's exactly what you got to do.
Okay, yeah. You have to be realistic. Do you think knowing Thai is important here?
Oh, yes. I mean, if you stick around with your friends from your country and your local bar and so forth, probably not so much. But I got out where I was doing a lot of traveling and doing a lot of everything. It's a door opener for you. It really is in Thailand. I mean, if you can speak a little Thai, even if you try, even if you're terrible at it and so forth, the Thais really appreciate the effort that it takes to put in to try to speak it. But it took me 3 months to learn Thai. Forget about learning tones and so forth. You just concentrate on learning vocabulary, which is only about 70 words, because it's a descriptive language. My typical one is like, we have airplane, which is a French actually word. Well, Thai, everything is descriptive. If you had to look at something in the sky there, what would you call it? Well, krung bin is what they call an airplane, and it's a machine that flies. You get a few basic words down, like what's water, what's oil, and so forth, and you just keep adding words to it and so forth. And it only takes about 70 words to learn to where you can handle yourself in Thai pretty well.
So they're core words? Or?
Yeah, the core words, like nam, which is water. It actually means liquid, but if you just say it by itself, everybody takes it as water. Som is orange, so if you say nam som, well, then you're talking for an orange drink. So it's very easy. Once you get those 70 basic core words down, you've got the language. And don't worry about the tones. When you say something in a phrase, even if it's only a 2-word phrase, cow means 9 different things depending on the tone you use. But if you say kin cow, well, to the Thais, that means eating. So if you say, and kin is eat, so, and cow is rice, so that means eating in Thailand. So you don't have to worry about the other 9 to 8 tones of the word, because anytime it's used with another word, it's pretty much self-explanatory.
So if you know basic Thai, you come here and you can get down the LOs and the thank yous and maybe the numbers and that type of stuff.
Yep.
That's going to be a considerable help, make your life easier.
Particularly if you're out of Pattaya. If you're in Pattaya, I don't know how much of an advantage it really is, but if you're anywhere out of Pattaya, it does wonders.
Put a link right about here. Did an interview with Jay out of Chiang Mai, and he speaks and reads Thai. So anyway, check that interview out as well. The more people that I interview on Everybody Has a Story, the more people that can actually speak Thai versus the people that don't. Yeah.
If you're sticking with your bunch of foreigners, where you live and so forth, it's not really that important. But if you really want to get out and go places where foreigners don't go, speaking Thai, the prices of everything drops considerably. A lot of places by half.
Milk or orange juice?
Milk with food, orange juice for drinking. So out on the town for the night drinking, it'll be orange juice.
People have a wide choice of accommodations here. They may live on the dark side, probably maybe in town or on the ocean. Any recommendations?
No, a lot of it would be, of course, is how long you're planning on staying or moving around to different places in Thailand. In Pattaya here, I've seen places for 350 baht a day.
Wow.
And up
you can get them very cheap.
And up on the second road, 650 with air conditioning and the whole works.
Sure.
Basically, it depends how long you want to stay in one place. I'm pretty much here in Pattaya now, so I have a condominium, which is probably the cheapest, I think, for long-term for people. Even if you're renting, you can rent condominiums fairly
Right.
cheap.
Do you eat Thai?
Yeah, I can eat Thai. I don't eat the hot stuff, but fortunately, Thailand has such a wide variety of food. You can always find something that's not burning hot, if you can't stand the chili peppers.
Right. In your opinion, does this area offer adequate means to meet companions, friends?
Yes.
Meeting new people?
Yeah, particularly if you want to meet foreigners, that speak your language and so forth. That they have innumerous anything from pool to water skiing. I think they have everything that you can think of, pretty much.
Exactly. I met you at the pool.
Yep.
Metal detecting, I think, or something.
And I was talking about billiards type pool.
Yeah.
They for Westerners, there's basically anything you'd want, I think.
Right. Yeah. So there's lots to do as far as hobbies are concerned.
All the foreigners have brought their hobbies with them and started their own little clubs for everything.
Golf and what else? There's even shooting.
Yeah, there's about seven or 8 shooting ranges that are really, really close to Pattaya here. So
right, and there's besides all the tourist stuff, there's things for people to do here.
Yep.
So, what does your typical day look like?
Well, I'm kind of a night person because it is warm during the day, and I ride a motorbike anyway most of the time. So basically, I sleep as much of the day as I can and out prowling around at night.
Do you find it easy to find things to do?
Oh yeah. In fact, I wonder how I ever managed to work. Well, I'm so busy being retired that I don't know how work ever fit into my schedule.
So do you go out and do the bars and nightclubs and
do dancing? There's a whole bunch of clubs around. More Thai ones than there's probably foreign ones too. But I visit the Thai ones. They're a little cheaper, and Thai women there,
Sure.
and. So there's a lot. If you like to listen to music or dance and so forth, there's a lot to do there too.
Yeah. As far as companionship goes?
Again, there's no end to that. You can start anywhere from the bottom all the way to the top.
Right. That's kind of what this area is known for, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it really is.
So besides the nightlife, there is the companionship end of it. So.
And it's not really limited to Thais. If you have seen a lot of Russians and
Lately.
Particularly, so you basically any nationality you want, you can find. And English, I've run across some English girls.
Right. Obviously, the African, Russian, European.
Well, Central Asian.
Right. Yeah. Do you go out every night?
Just about. Maybe out to eat and so forth. Maybe not a big deal, but you go to the movies even. Movie theaters some of them are very reasonable price, and they got good movies. So.
Right. If you had the power to change something about Thailand or this area in particular, what would you change?
Put it back 40 years. Keep it the same, just move it back 40 years.
Yeah, bring back the good old days.
That's it.
You know, I miss the good old days. And literally, back in the good old, what I thought was the good old days, everybody said, well, you should have been here 10 years ago. I'm always 10 years too late.
Well, of course, they were telling me that when I got here in '77. They said, well, you should have been here 10 years ago. And it was really good because the Vietnam War was going and so forth and really booming then.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing to deal with here?
For me, it's actually traffic. That's my number one because I go out a lot. I got a lot of hobbies and so forth, so I'm out doing things, and it's still getting around. Even with a motorcycle, fighting the traffic.
You definitely have to drive with your head on a swivel.
Right. And that's why I like going out at night, because out at night, if you go out past 10 o'clock or so, the traffic's non-existent past then, so then you can drive around and do whatever you want.
You have family?
Unfortunately, no. My parents are dead. My brothers all have passed away, my older brothers, so I'm the last of the...
The last of it, huh?
Yeah.
So what do you think is one of the best decisions you ever made in life?
Probably moving to Thailand.
Really?
Yeah.
Meat or tofu? Meat. Have you ever eaten tofu?
Unless I had to.
What is tofu?
Some sort of bean stuff.
How many different countries have you visited?
You got countries and you got territories and somewhere, but around 40, I think, total.
Well, that's well traveled.
Yeah. I originally planned on going all the way around the world in the boat. That was my thing, but traveled all, like I say, through the Pacific and so forth, and after seeing Thailand, there was no going back.
Thailand's kind of addicting, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, I'd been to every Asian country on the sailboat already, and just Thailand was the friendliest.
What makes you happy?
Girls.
Yeah.
Asian girls, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I knew from the time I was a teenager, actually, that I preferred Asian girls over Western girls. It wasn't something that I stumbled into later in life. I knew it from 15 years old.
Sure. Yeah, wow. What's next in your life?
Well, at my age, I just keep plunking along,
Well,
as
no
long as
future plans to go out and buy a sailboat?
No, I sometimes get the urge, but then the reality sets in,
Well, do you have anything else to say or add to this interview?
No, we covered a lot of ground, a lot of stories I could tell, but I'll save that for other times maybe.
Yeah, that really, Brian he's led a tremendous life. We could go on and on and on about all the different things that he's done here in Thailand, and maybe that'll be held on another time. Lobster or crayfish?
Lobster.
Lobster, all right. We like lobster here. Well, Brian, I appreciate your time. For Everybody Has a Story and on Margaritas in Paradise.
Yep.
Absolutely. I want to make sure, if you haven't done so already, that you give me a big thumbs up, that you're hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell right next to it for notification of future videos. If you know anybody out there that's interested in doing an interview on Everybody Has a Story, please let me know. Send me a message to margaritas and paradise at gmail.com. And there's a copy of that in the description below. I want to send out a special shout out to Ehal from Israel. I met him the other day down at the Tops shop. And another shout out, I met a guy from Manchester. His name's Michael, another viewer subscriber. I believe he's living here now in Pattaya. So a shout out to Ehal and Michael. All right. Other than that, we'll see you down the road. Bye-bye.